want to see it once? Okay. Take out the sermon notes page. I have a test for you this morning. Now flip it over on the back side. You're going to grab something to write with. Some of you are like, man, I don't come to church for a test. I get that, but you don't pay attention if I don't give you a test, right? So here's what I need you to do. I looked at 3 different websites. I'm going to give you the top 7 superheroes according to these websites. Just Google who are the top, who are the coolest, who are the best, top 10, whatever, superheroes. I'm going to give you the superhero. What I need you to do is name them. What's their alter ego? What's their name? And, see, I thought, most of you are pretty sharp. You'll get that. What I also want you to do is what's their daytime job? Okay? When they're not busy being a superhero, what is it that they're doing? All right, here we go. Here's the first one, Batman. Don't say it out loud. Don't be looking at your neighbor. I probably should have you, because some of you are going to be like, I can't do this. You might as well, if you feel like you're really stuck, you need to talk to your neighbor. If your neighbor looks dumbfounded, like, I got no clue, maybe just look at him and say, hey, it's, okay? So, Batman, what's his real name? Well, hey, do not say it out loud. Some of you are not going to make it in real life. I'm just telling you. If you can't make it in church, you cannot make it in real life. All right? Okay. What's his real name? What's his daytime job? All right, here's the second guy on this top 7 list who is, we know it's Iron Man. What I need to know is what's his name? What's his daytime job? Okay? Some of you are like, I'd do this, but there's no prize. I'll get you a prize. I promise you. If you ace this thing today, you'll get a prize. All right? We're moving down the line. You ready? You ready for number 3? Here it is. We know Spidey. What's his name? What's his daytime job? And these dudes are all famous. I mean, if you don't know who these people are, pity you, right? Like, what rock do you live under? If you're online, I hope you're participating. You can send in your answers, and we will. If you're watching us online, we will get you a prize, all right? Okay, those are 3. Here we go. Here's number 4. Who's that guy? What's his? Yeah, now don't give away. Now, what's his name and what's his daytime job? The superheroes, like the amount of money these dudes generate, for you guys to be ignorant of this is really disappointing, okay? Just means you don't go to Target near enough, all right? Okay? Dude's got a new movie coming out. See that? Coming out in July. Anybody going to go? Yeah, right here, down front. Okay, so I expect that you guys are going to get, yeah, you know, who this is, what his daytime job is. All right, where are we at? That's 5. Here's number 6. That's the Hulkster, not the wrestler. Okay? This is a cartoon dude. He's got a name and he's got a daytime job. All right, last one. Couldn't leave him out, right? Captain America. He's got a movie out. The movie came out, right? Captain America movie came out, I believe. What's his name? What's his daytime job? Okay, now, if your paper is mostly blank, there's no way that I want you to feel like defeated or down. I just would say like you're out of touch with what's happening in reality, okay? So you might give some thought to how you're spending your time with social media. You know, you might need to buy some more comic books. You might need to go to a show or something, okay? All right, see if I can. Jason, can you get me back to the first slide? Oh, Jason's not back there. Jason left me. Yeah, just keep hitting back. Can you do that? Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Keep going, keep going. Keep going. All right, here we go. Batman. Batman's real name is? Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne. His daytime job? Yeah, some variation of, big dude at Wayne Enterprises, all right? Which is, Wayne Enterprises, now this is just us making conversation. Like, you know what Wayne Enterprises does? Like, they're in like a variety of things. I didn't know that. I mean, I was getting a little bit of history here. So it's not, he made his fortune as an inheritance from his folks, is what I understand. But Wayne Enterprises has his hand in a lot of different things, and he's like the CEO of Wayne Enterprises. All right, here we go. Number 2 is the Iron Man. His name is? Tony Stark. What does Tony Stark do? Yeah, CEO of what? Stark Enterprises, right? Did I get that right? Industries, yes, okay. Stark Industries, CEO of Stark Industries. He's a billionaire. He's an entrepreneur. He's like what a lot of guys want to be, man. I got a lot of money, and I'm trying to chase girls, and like I'm famous, right? And then he wants to be Iron Man. Okay, here we go. Spidey. Peter Parker. What does Peter Parker do? He's a photographer, right? His daytime job is a freelance photographer. Okay, give yourself credit if you got that one. The Wolverine. Logan. What is Logan's daytime job? He's a teacher of mutants. That's right. He's a professor. He's a teacher of other mutants. Okay, so if you got that, give yourself credit for that one. Here we go. Superman is Clark Kent. Clark Kent is Hulkster. Bruce Banner. What does Bruce do? He's a scientist. That's right. That's how he got some gamma rays, right? It made him all big and strong. And then when he gets like angry, he goes like big old green guy. Okay. And last but not least, there it is, Captain America. His real name is Steve Rogers. Captain Steve Rogers. Give yourself a little extra credit. We got Steve. What was his? I didn't know this. I did not know this. So he's a World War II vet, right? And then like he did some sort of experimentation or something, and he got these superpowers, and he's a big old strong dude, and so there it is. All right, how many of you got them all right? We got some ties out here. Okay, good. Now I got a bonus question. Christopher, you don't have, can you just show me the paper where it's written down? Did you write it down? That's your mom's. Okay.
I told her what to write. He doesn't know how to write. Yeah, thanks, Mom.
And I'm going to say homeschooled, but that's going to offend some of you. All right? I'm just going to leave that there, okay? Hey, so, all right, bonus question. Who was the first superhero comic? Who was the first superhero that went to print, okay? Was Superman. And you guys have a guess, like what year?
I think 1938.
You're like a geek, dude. You're like, are you serious? Right here, give this guy a 1938 Superman was the first comic, man. I'm impressed. I'm like, I got no idea. Dude's been around that long? That's really cool. All right. So here's the deal. I've been impressed with the idea that I really do think there's a fascination with these guys. It's seen by the amount of money that we spend on it, whether it's the movies or we're buying the dolls or we're buying the action figures or whatever. We spend a lot of money on these things. More so than, like, it's just like up there. And so they've had people like study, like, why? Why are we enamored with superheroes? And a couple things have come out. One is the idea that a lot of people are bored with what they think of their regular lives. And so we're enamored with these people that maybe have regular lives, but they've got these superpowers, and they go out and save people, and they do these extraordinary feats. And it's a way for us to escape our doldrums of our everyday, what we would say, boring existence. That may have some merit. That's at least interesting to think about, okay? There's another sentiment out there that the reason that these people are popular is we would like to be them, in the sense of we would like to do things that help people, but we just feel inadequate. And so we sort of live our lives through these characters. PBS did a study, not a study, it was a show, The Great American Read. It was an 8-part series that looked at America's 100 best loved novels. And they went back a long time, but under the idea of, they were looking at like the concept of the heroes that play out in the storylines, and why? What did they discover from these heroes? And I thought was interesting. I want to just begin this series with us today. One person said, in trying to define a hero and why heroes are important to us, is a hero is one we wish we all were if we didn't have our own personal limitations. We all wish we could do or be known for something cool, but we see our imperfections and we see our flaws and we see the times we get scared and we back down. And so it's like, somebody else said, I think when we hear heroes or we see them or read about them, we think about the qualities which we had: courage, strength, fortitude, bravery. Reading about everyday heroes gives us hope and lets us know that we're not alone in the good fight. And then a person said, a hero lifts us. It redeems what we try to do. The hero provides us an archetype that gives us a direction. Let's go this way. We'll be okay. The idea that, hey, when we look at these lives and the heroes and the things that they're doing, maybe we can say yes. And it inspires us to let's go that direction. Let's be that kind of person. We'd like to believe there's a hero gene in all of us, was a quote. And that's what I'm sort of curious about over this series that we're going to do called Unlikely Heroes. We're going to look at the book of Judges, and we're going to see for the next several weeks regular people that God used in really cool ways to be of help to other people. But they weren't Captain America, Batman, Superman. They were just regular Joes. And I think when we're looking to try and figure out I read often what I sense are despair, unhappiness, dang, what can we do? It's in the news, it's in conversations I have with people. We just feel bound. You know what a hero does? A hero maybe comes alongside someone and says, it doesn't have to be that way. It could be different. And the book of Judges is just a collection of stories of God using regular folks to step into the world of other regular folks and bring them deliverance, give them a sense that life can be better. So if you have a Bible and you want to open it, the Old Testament book of Judges is number 6. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges. I guess that would be number 7, okay? What is a hero? I think God is looking for ordinary heroes to bring healing to broken people. That's what I think he's out on the men doing. He's looking for regular people. He's not looking for the pastor type. He's looking for the people sitting there and saying, hey, how can I use you if you were open to being used? All right? I looked this week, what is the definition of a hero? A hero is, according to Merriam-Webster, someone that is admired for their courage. One dictionary definition said it's a mythological or legendary figure, often of divine descent. In other words, sort of like make-believe. The ones I showed you are all make-believe. They're all comics. They're not real. They're not real, Maddox. Not real, man. They're fake, okay? They're fake. So you might have a pushback and say, hey, Mike, that's all well and good, but they're fake. Anybody can be anything when they're fake, right? What about us? We're real flesh and blood. How does that play out? I love in my brain when I tried to define what a hero looks like is someone who just acts with courage and character in helping somebody else. And man, if that's true, all bets are off. I read this week the story of a 3-year-old. His grandma, 77 years old, had fallen. Grandma had gashed her head on the concrete. The 3-year-old, his name was Bridger. 3-year-old Bridger. Grandma said, great-grandma said, I need your help. I need you to go and get my phone. The phone was in the car. The car was in the garage. All the lights were off. If you can imagine a 3-year-old, they're not reaching the light switch. Okay? And Bridger's, as a 3-year-old would say, trying to get it out. like we were talking, he was nervous, he was scared, going out in the dark garage. But Grandma needed help. You know what Bridger did? He fought through his fears of the dark. He got out to the car. He got the phone out of Grandma's purse. He called 911. Grandma had taken 23 stitches to the head. She had a serious wound. If the 3-year-old doesn't do that. But what did he do? He displayed, I would say, courage and bravery to not let his fear of the dark stop him from trying to help Grandma. I think heroes, regular people, are those that have some sense of courage within them, a sense of character about wanting to do right, and are determined to do that right. That's what a hero looks like, okay? They don't all wear capes. I read something that said a hero is just someone who displays bravery for 5 minutes more. I thought about that for a second. Just 5 minutes more of being brave. Because I wonder if what the point of the author is trying to say is most of us come up to situations and we look the situation in the face and it's scary, and so we back off. And we're going to talk about a little bit in the situations. I'm not talking about feats of like where you're overturning cars. I think it sometimes can be a feat like you look at a conversation you need to have and you won't have it. Because you're scared. Because you're afraid. It's going to be awkward. So you don't want to go there. Right? I think being brave can be, you know what? Your marriage isn't the way you want it to be, but you don't want to bring it up. You don't want to say anything. I think bravery, having courage, looks like you're being treated a certain way at work, but you want the job more than you want to confront the way you're being treated, so you swallow stuff, and your self-image takes a hit, and you get beat up a little bit more, because you just don't want to say anything, because you're afraid. You understand that I think it's just sometimes being brave 5 minutes more. Some of you know what it's like. Some of you are being bullied, and you won't say anything. Why is it an epidemic in our schools that is talked about? But we don't want to say anything because we don't want to appear weak. We don't want to make things worse, right? A hero is someone who looks at a situation and says, you know what? I'm going to be brave. I'm going to step forward in this situation and do what I can by the grace of God. The book of Judges is filled with stories of people who looked at situations, God tapped them on the shoulder and said, I need you to, will you? And they said, oh man, I'm not sure, God, I'm not sure you got the right person. But they eventually got there and God used them. Judges was written after, if you just, let me give you a brief overview of the Old Testament. The people were in slavery for 400 years. God raises up Moses. Moses goes to Pharaoh, says, we're getting out of here. Pharaoh says, not so quick. You got 10 plagues. Finally, on the 10th plague, the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh says, go. They gave him a whole bunch of stuff. Israel leaves. They get out in the wilderness. They come to this Red Sea, this immovable object. And they're like, dude, you brought us here to die. Egyptian armies on our heels, and we got nowhere to go. And then God just does this miraculous thing where they walk on dry land through the sea. Crazy, crazy stuff. And then when the Egyptian army tries to do it, the seas close in and they drown them all. Okay? Go throughout the promised land. They go to the first spot in the promised land, and it's like, oh man, we can't do this. And God said, I gave it to you. And they're like, oh, we can't. It's just so hard, God. You don't know. And God knew. He said, all right, you don't believe that I can do this? Fine. You'll die. I'll use your kids. There's a principle there for me that I want to share with you real briefly. There are times I think God says to you, go, get off your duff and go. And you and I refuse to do it. And then I fear for the time that God may say, fine, you're just going to die where you're sitting. And I'm going to use somebody else. Don't presume that God's second chances keep going for 45 and 50. I believe in the God of second chances. I honestly do. But I do believe also that God says, hey, look, I'm asking you. I'm telling you, go. And you're like, I don't want to go. I don't want to do that. And then God says, okay, fine. Okay, have it your way. I'll use somebody else. Okay? So they get in the promised land. God just told them, man, take control. And they get out there and they're like, they win some battles, but they won't take control. And so when we come to Judges chapter 1, what we have is the first part of, just a recaption of the story, that they went in, they won some battles, but they didn't fully drive out the enemy. And because they didn't fully drive out the enemy, we read in chapter 2, verse 1, that the angel of the Lord went up from Gilgal to Bochum. And I believe the angel of the Lord is a pre-incarnate appearance of Jesus. So I think this is Jesus talking to them and said, I brought you out of Egypt. I led you into land I promised I was going to give you. I said I'm never going to break my promise with you. And you should not make any promises with the people of this land, but you did not break down their altars. You have disobeyed me. Why have you done this? Why didn't you do what I asked you to do? And so because you've done this, I'm not going to drive them out now. And they're going to be like a pebble in your shoe. They're going to be like a thorn in your side. They're going to be like a pain in your derriere because you wouldn't do it. And when the angel of the Lord had spoken, verse 4, these things to all the Israelites, the people wept aloud, and they called that place Bochum, and there they offered sacrifices to the Lord. Oh, God, we're so sorry. But God has spoken. They're going to live with the consequences of their half-hearted disobedience. So Judges then the book of Judges sets up in this cycle where Israel does what they want to do. They're messing around. Disregard for God, what God said. The result of that was then the enemy comes in, takes them captive, beats them up, messes with them. They get sorry. They cry out to God for help. God sends them somebody, and then as long as that person's in their life, they remain faithful. And that person dies, and then they go back to their old ways of ignoring God. I think this cycle happens in broken people all the time. I think when you find people who are messed up and life isn't going well, see, this isn't just like, an Old Testament story. I think this is every day. I think this is folks that you rub shoulders with, I rub shoulders with. You could see this in the lives of families that are dysfunctional. It's just a matter of figuring out where in the cycle are they, okay? So let me show you what this, I think, looks like. Verse 6, Joshua dismisses the Israelites. They now are going to go take possession of the land. They were all given a portion. Hey, this is what I need you to do. The people served the Lord throughout the lifetime of Joshua and of the elders who outlived him, and have seen all the great things that the Lord had done for Israel. I have that highlighted in my Bible. As long as Joshua and his peer group were like there and present, and they were talking about what God was doing, how God was real, the people stayed on track. But there comes a point when Joshua and his peer group die. And then what happens? The kids, the grandkids, growing up and don't have a hoot for thinking about who God is and what God wants to do. I'm being straight up with you because I now have grandchildren. How do we get to a spot where our grandkids don't know God? I'm asking you, grandmas and grandpas, while we still have life and breath, how is it that your grandkids don't know the Lord? How is it that your kids might not know Jesus? That's worth you thinking about, because that's what happened here. Don't presume because you got some sense of God in your house that it's going to follow through. Because I think there's too much of history that says, no, that's not necessarily going to happen. All right? So we move now to verse 10. After the whole generation had been gathered to their fathers, that's Joshua and his peer group, another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. And I just was like, how? How do you win those battles? How do you just have a group of people that don't know who God is and what he's doing? And the only way I can make it real for you is to say, how is it that your kids or your grandkids might not know that God is real? Interesting to me, the Hebrew words here it says here, that they knew neither the Lord nor what he had done. The language lends itself to believe it's not ignorance, but they chose to ignore God. Okay, well, that makes it a bit more interesting. Because I couldn't conceive of Joshua and his friends not passing on the stories of who God was and what God had done. But it's possible to pass on the stories and your kids say, that's rubbish. That worked for you, Mom and Dad. That worked for you, Grandma and Grandpa. Times are different. The world's different. We've changed. We're smarter. We're more educated. We're more hip. We're more in tune. I think when you find people that get off the rails and their life's not going well and they're living in the cycle, I think one of the things that we have to say is that they choose to ignore God. Not that God's not making himself known. I think they know. They just are choosing to say, I don't want to follow him. I think that's just a coincidence. I think it's just like maybe that just got lucky. Because that's interesting to me. They fought these battles, and they would have had to come home from fighting some of the battles and then recounting the stories. And they were winning, but I guess maybe they were just really good swordsmen. When was the last story you shared with your kids or your grandkids of what God had done in your life? How long has it been? I don't ask it as guilt. That's not a guilt question. It's just an honest question. When was the last time you talked about politics, or talked about sports, or talked about your job, or talked about what somebody did here or somebody did there? When was the last time you talked about something that God had done or something of a spiritual nature? See the difference? We could talk about the other stuff all day long, but the stuff of the heart, we sometimes let go. And then that's why I wonder if then our kids and our grandkids say, maybe it wasn't that important to them. Maybe it really was, like it was something they did, like we went to church on Sunday. I remember going to church on Sunday, and I've shared with you many times, there was a point when I said to my mom, you don't go to church, why do you make us get up? I wasn't trying to be backtalkish. I was asking an honest question as a sixth grader. You don't go to church. Why do you make us get out of bed on Sunday morning when I want to sleep and go to church with Grandma? Why do you do that? And she never came in my room to wake me again. Because what could she say? So what I'm trying to say here is I think when our lives get messed up and we get busted up a little bit, one of the things that happens is we just choose that we're not going to listen to God. We're not going to pass along stories. We don't talk about him, or we hear the stories and we just say, I just want to do it my way. They grew up not knowing the Lord, choosing to ignore, and not looking at what he had done. We make excuses for our poor choices. So look at verse 11. Then the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, and they served the Baal. So they basically began to worship the gods that were still in the land. And what I mean by that is they make excuses. I think whenever you find somebody that's jammed up and not living life well, they will rationalize their decision making. When you talk to people who drink too much, let's be real, alcoholism is a big deal in our country. Even a small church like us, I know we have people who struggle with alcohol. Absolutely. So don't kid yourself. But instead of confronting it, you know what we say? It's not that big a deal. I don't drink too much. Everybody does it. I've always done it. My parents did it. I'm not in trouble. I can control it. We're excusing and rationalizing our decisions because we don't want to make ourselves feel bad when we know maybe God has said, hey, here, this is like a flag waving. You should pay attention to this. Your work habits. You've been written up at work. Somebody's commented, your superiors are saying something to you. You're like, you know what? Everybody slacks off. You know what? You treat me poorly. You know what? You don't pay me enough. If you paid me more, I'd do a better job. And so what we're taking is our poor behavior, and we're trying to say, you know what? It's not my fault. It's not my fault. The people here that should know better chose to just say, we're going to flirt with sin. We're just going to mess with stuff. We're not fully in it. We're just kind of dabbling in it. Before you know it, they're messed up. They're enslaved. We chase after the American Idol. It's looking down here and it says, so they forsook the Lord, the God of their fathers, who brought them out of Egypt. They followed and worshiped various gods of the people around them. And they provoked the Lord to anger because they forsook him, and they served Baal and the Asherahs. The Baal god was seen as he was the god of, remember, the society that we're in is all built around agriculture. They need rain, they need sun. It's all like producing wheat, the stuff of the fields. Baal was the god who sent rains. Baal was the god who made your crops grow. So wouldn't it make sense that, like, if you're going to bow down and you're going to serve somebody, you're going to bow down and serve the one that's going to make you successful, right? Because they needed their crops. The Asherahs were the female, like, fertility gods, like the sex goddesses. They say that, and I'm just mindful I have kids in here, but, like, if you're familiar with gentlemen clubs and poles, that these would have been the poles that were talked about. They just danced at them. They paraded around them to try and get the gods to give favor to them. And so Israel, instead of following Jesus, following the true God Yahweh, they're these false gods. These things that they think are going to get them where they want to be. And then here's what I ask myself, straight up. Anybody bow down to an idol this week? I mean, seriously, put your hand up. I'm just curious. Anybody got a wooden idol in your garage? You don't. You don't. Or do you? Anybody choose to do something this week and you compromised a little bit because if you were to take a stand on it, you might be a little less popular? And so really your God is popularity. You want to be accepted. Don't want people to think poorly of you, so you keep your mouth shut. Look the other way. Anybody do that? Anybody think that money is going to be your rescuer? You wouldn't say you worship money, because that sounds really crass. But you are keenly aware of your 401k. It's hard for you to give. It's hard for you to be generous, because if you give it away, how are you going to have it? You can't trust God to make it up for you, right? You got to do for yourself. And if you worship at the God of pleasure, leisure, comfort, like you evaluate your decisions in terms of, like, is this like how this will benefit me? What will this do for me? Am I going to like this? Do you worship at that God? I think if you and I were to do a little introspection, we might find that there are gods that we do bow down to. I think if you look at what's happening in culture, there's a sense in which if you don't bow down to the right people, you can expect some pain. If you don't compromise, if you don't bend your integrity a little bit, you're going to suffer for it. The fourth thing that they did was then life becomes frustrating. So look what happens here in verse, the end of 14. God sold them then to their enemies all around, whom they were no longer able to resist. And whenever Israel went out to fight, the hand of the Lord was against them to defeat them, just as he had promised them, and they were in great distress. I think people who are stuck and their life has gone off the rails, it's hard, it's frustrating, it's demoralizing. You feel defeated. Talk to anybody who's caught in an addiction and trying to break out of it. It's hard. They're frustrated. They don't wish their life was like this, but it is. You talk to people who are making decisions that are very self-interest and self-motivated, and then they find out they're all alone. I would say they begin in great distress. Who do they turn to? They push everybody else away. They haven't welcomed people into their world. They're not looking for other people. The last thing is then they just won't listen to godly counsel. So 16, the Lord raised up judges who saved them. Yet verse 17, they wouldn't listen to the judges, but they prostituted themselves to the other gods, and they worship the other gods. I am a firm believer that God has ways of getting his children's attention. In sometimes ways that surprise us. Somebody will say something to you. Where'd that come from? Like out of the blue. Somebody will send you a note. Somebody, you might watch something and there'll be just something gets said on there. And you're like, wow. And it's because you're dealing with something and God's trying to get your attention. In the case of Judges, God sent them actual people to say, hey, look, knock it off. But they wouldn't listen. I don't want to show hands. I'm going to ask you a question as your pastor. Are you dealing with anything right now that you know is wrong and you need to put it aside? My heart is right. Are you? Then I'm telling you, you need to knock it off. I'm telling you, you need to put it aside before it hurts you and it hurts your family. And so now you're left with a decision to make. Here's the decision you have to make. Was Warman just spouting off? Or is it possible God wanted to get your attention this morning and say, look, this is grace. I'm giving you a moment. I'm giving you an opportunity. Make a change. Is that for you this morning? Because that's what these judges were doing. They were coming in and saying, look, the road you're on, if you keep going down this path, is going to hurt you. I'm looking at a guy that was that was his line of business, was looking people in the eye and saying, look, if you don't change, you're going to end up hurt. Am I right, Andrew? And it wasn't because you were trying to control their lives. You were just saying, I see where this road is going. If you don't change, it's going to be costly. That's what the judges were doing. I think that's the role as a pastor. I think godly people, and I'm not saying, in the right, hear my heart, it's like this is what the mature people in the faith should be doing to one another. Instead, we back off and we don't say those things. Because I don't know, I don't want to lose you. I don't want you to stop coming to church. I don't want you to stop giving. All that is secondary to the fact that what if our greatest goal was I want your life to go well? I really want your world to be okay. Isn't that what Jesus did? Jesus came to us and said, everybody who's tired and frustrated with life, you come to me. And all who come to me, I will never cast away. And I will give you rest if you'll take my yoke and just learn from me. That's what Christ offers us. And so these guys are all caught up in this, and I want to leave you then with this thought. So what do heroes do? If you and I were to be a hero, what's the point of it? I got some things up here that I think are just, let me just blow through them. I think heroes, people who come alongside, give other people hope. I think you inspire others to do better and be better. I think heroes come alongside and they speak truth and they just say, man, how can I help you? I think heroes lead by example. They don't just show you the way, or they don't just say, hey, go this path, but they're like, how do I help you get there? I think they give you good advice, but I sometimes don't want to hear that advice. I don't want to listen to it, especially if I'm stuck, because it's going to go contrary to everything that I'm fighting for right now, which is me. Me. They don't have capes. They just lovingly come alongside people, and they're there to bless and encourage and say, come on. Isn't that what Christ does? Whoever comes to me, I will in no way cast out. Like a broken reed, I'm not going to just keep beating you down. Come on, let's get up. Let's go. Heroes, how do I break a cycle? If you're stuck in a cycle, I think one of the things I would say to you honestly is you have to decide what do you want your life to be like? And what do you want your life for your kids to be like? I look at high school kids here. We got high school kids in the room. We got small kids back there. What do we want their world to be like? Man. How many of you would say you've grown up in, I don't want to show of hands, we use the term and we throw it out there, broken, dysfunctional homes? I was one. No one likes to admit it. If you just talk to your friends, tell them, give them the honest permission. You lay it out. And they'll say, yeah, it doesn't sound normal or healthy to me. At some point, if you think you're in a broken, dysfunctional relationship, you have to decide, do I want to keep going down this path? Because I promise you the other person probably isn't going to change. It's going to be in you. The ball's in your court. What do you want for your kids? As you hear me say, I am raising my grandchildren, not because of what I'm doing with James, but because I still believe I have a vested interest in my kids. And I'm imparting in them, even in their 30s. And I know that, see, they didn't come to church today. So I know that they don't listen. I know that they resent it sometimes. It's not going to stop me. I want to see their life live well. If their life is lived well, I got a shot at my grandkids' life being well. That's how it works, friends. If the parent's life is messed up, man, except for the grace of God, the kid's life is going to be messed up. That's just the cycle. Somewhere you've got to break the cycle. And by the grace of God, may it start with you. Get rid of the harmful influences. Quit messing with things that you think, man, if I just go down this path, it's just not going to go well. Why? Why are you messing with it? Why do you need it? What's it doing for you? If you're struggling with alcohol, I'm flat out going to ask you a question. What's it doing for you? Why can't you say no to it? What is it giving you? It's doing something for you that you won't let it go. If it's porn, what is porn doing for you that you won't let it go? If it's lying and you're dishonest and you just fudge the truth a little bit, why? Why won't you let it go? There's something in it that's feeding you. You need to do the heavy lifting of saying, what is it? Why do I need this so much? Surround yourself with people who I think believe in God and I think believe in you. I can't emphasize that enough. Joshua and his friend group, as long as they were around, they kept the wheels on the bus going in the right direction. But it wasn't Joshua alone, it was his peer group. I love my friends. I need my friends. I need an Alan Ferguson. I need a couple of guys I got in Michigan. I admire an Alan Godby. There are people in my peer group that we don't always see eye to eye, but I need them. You need them. Don't think you can do this alone, because you won't. You will crash at some point. Pity the man or woman who thinks they've got it all figured out and they don't need peers. They don't need godly peers. This guy and I we don't see a lot. Well, we have our differences. I have great respect for Travis. His walk. His heart for God. We need that. You need that in your life. And so if you want to break the cycle, if you would like to be a hero to somebody, it's not hard. 13 of us were heroes yesterday. Put on some green shirts and went out and handed out some bubbles. 1,000 people, just tried to make them smile. How hard is it to be a hero? I don't know. there's 15 kids, according to the principal, that don't have snacks. Not the whole school, but there's 15 kids that you get a chance to just say, hey, have some real snacks. Have some stuff. Not all heroes wear capes. I'm going to close with this. Team's coming up. I think I came across this, and I don't know where I got it, but it's been interesting to me. It's entitled, When You Thought I Wasn't Looking. When you thought I wasn't looking. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you hang my first painting on the fridge, and that made me want to paint another one. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you made my favorite cake for me, and I knew that little things are special things. When you thought I wasn't looking, I heard you pray for me, and I grew up to believe in a God that I could talk to. When you thought I wasn't looking, I felt you kiss me goodnight, and it didn't make me feel loved and wanted. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw tears come from your eyes, and I learned that sometimes things hurt, but it's all right to cry. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw that you cared for others, and in seeing you care for others, I wanted to be like that. When you thought I wasn't looking, well, I looked. And I want to say thanks for all the things I saw when you thought I wasn't looking. People watch you. Your kids, your grandkids, your neighbors, people here at church, they watch, they see. And we can inspire others to be better, to do better. Our words, being there, hugs, how you doing? Or we can shrink back and live for ourselves. And then wonder when we get to a spot, like, what happened? I want us to be a church. I want you to be a person that's just an ordinary person that's a hero to the people you rub shoulders with. That God uses you in their life to inspire them. There's a woman here today who sent a check recently. I thank God for that check. Totally unexpected. Wasn't a big amount, but the fact that she would think to do that was just like sort of like a guest, and like it spoke encouragement to me. And I haven't had a chance to tell her thank you yet. Every day we can be those people that lift others up. That's what I want for you. I'm going to pray that right now, and we're going to sing this last song. Father in heaven, thank you for Jesus, our Redeemer, our friend. Father, thank you for second chances, third chances, 10th chances, 12th chances. For some of us, Lord, it's just, can't put a number on it, but you've not quit on us. We still have breath. May we, this week, these next few weeks, God, may you put on our hearts ways that we might be an encouragement, a help, a blessing to someone that we're rubbing shoulders with. Lord, if there's any of my friends here today that are caught in this cycle somewhere and they just feel trapped and they're just serving the wrong God, I pray that they might take heart and see that you are gracious and forgiving. That you might give them the strength to break through what they've got. Oh, Father, thank you for the kids that we're going to have a chance, the families maybe just I don't know, it's just going to seem so weird, just a bag of goldfish or just a snack up here. But I do pray, God, we ask for those kids, those homes, that you would be real to them and they might be mindful that you are with them, you've not forgotten them. Our days here are not very many. So, Lord Jesus, help us to make the most of them for you to be honored, for your kingdom to be expanded. In your name we pray, amen. Let's get on our feet. Let's sing with these guys.